All right, parallel lines and using the two forms. So we already covered last time complementary, supplementary, 90 and 180. Parallel lines are two lines that are going to be next to each other and never cross. If they do cross, they are not parallel. There are two formulas that are going to be included in your formula chart. Point slope looks like that. Y minus y1 equals slope times x minus x1. Slope intercept is y equals mx plus b. That's the normal one. That's called standard form. So the thing that we reviewed was the slope, which is next to x, and then the y-intercept plus 1. Okay, so that's where we're going to start a line. Then we can use the slope, up 3 over 1, down 3 over 1, down 3 over 1. That's a horrible line. I'm going to redo that. So the thing that we talked about is what's the only thing that changes if we're going to make parallel lines? We know that they can't cross, so that means they have to be the same slantiness. The same slantiness is also going to refer to slope. The only thing that changes would be your y-intercept. So if we did the same thing with a different y-intercept, up 3 over 1, you can see that we have two parallel lines if my lines would go straight. There we go. Those two lines are never going to cross because we have the same exact slope. So if we wanted to use the point slope form, it's kind of self-explanatory in the name of the formula. You have the point, which is right there, 1, 7, and you have the slope, which is right there. So those are the two things you're given. Y minus your y1 is going to be the only y point you're given. X1 is going to be the only x point you're given. Substitute your y1 in for y1, 7. Your slope is 3. X minus your x1, which was 1. This is where the distributive property comes in. So we're going to have x minus 1 multiplied 3 times. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. So now all we have to do is get y by itself, because we're doing point slope form to get it into y equals mx plus b. We were given slope and we were given a point, but we have no idea where the y-intercept is. So plus 7. (3x plus 4). So write an equation of a line that is parallel to f. All right, so 3x plus 1. So up 3 over 1, down 3 over 1, down 3 over 1. This is the line that you were given. Okay? Now, let's do the line that we just came up with that crosses through 1, 7 plus 4. Up 3 over 1. There's the point, 1, 7 right there. Over 1, up 7. So now we have a parallel line that crosses through point 1, 7. And you're sitting there going like, why am I doing this? It's because they're asking you to do it in the state of Texas. Don't think any more about it other than know how to use it. Okay, so one thing that we had to do some shuffling around with was if we want to get stuff to where y is by itself, we got to do some shuffling around big time. The process is always going to be the same, and the rules of algebra always apply. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So to get y by itself, we need to move x's over to one side. One of the mistakes you were making was whenever you're writing minus 3x, you wouldn't write minus 3x over here, and then that would change the problem. Just make sure that you're notating everything that you're doing the way that you know it should be done, instead of assuming that you're going to remember or you're just making little tiny mistakes. Be thorough. This is going to go to 0. It's going to be negative 2y equals negative 3x minus 16. So the whole point is to get y by itself. Right now we have negative 2y's. So to get rid of it or turn it into 1, You have to divide both sides by negative 2. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1y. Negative 3 divided by negative 2 is going to be 3 over 2, positive, because 2 negatives. Negative 16, negative 2 is going to be positive 8. Now this is your slope, and this is your y-intercept. This is just simply converting it from one form to another. So you're going to be given a jumble of information. It's going to say, turn it into slope-intercept form. That means get y by itself. Another example. Minus 11y equals negative 13x minus 12. You're sitting there going like, okay, there's negative 11y's. I don't even know what that means. Well, it just means you're dividing by negative 11 on both sides. These look wonky because you're getting into some wonky math. Negative 13, negative 11 is going to be 13 because they're both negative over positive 11. Negative 12, negative 11, that's going to be plus 12 over 11. That is in the form of y equals mx plus b. Is there stuff that could be done to it? Yes, absolutely. But it's best to just leave it like this and then look for the answer that best matches. So using the point slope form is going to be whenever you're given a point and the slope. Like for example, you're given a point and the slope. That's when you'd use point slope form. So y minus your y1, notice I'm always labeling these. I don't even want to make a mistake. 2 equals 7 times x minus x1 was 1. This is going to be on your formula chart labeled as point slope form. It's going to look exactly like that. So what we need to do is distribute your property first. So let's figure out, okay, so 7x, 7 times negative 1 is negative 7 minus 2y. Okay. Now let's get y by itself. Y equals 7x minus 5. Write in standard form given it crosses through a point and you have the slope. This is standard form, which is your slope intercept. Standard form and slope intercept form are interchangeable. They're the same thing. Let's go ahead and do that again. So x1, y1. So y minus negative 1 equals negative 1 times x minus 3. All right, so we know double negatives. That's going to go to positive. Awesome. That makes it easier. Now, let's distribute. Negative x. There's negative 1x right there. Anytime we see a negative next to a variable, there's always an invisible 1 there. Otherwise, if there were 0 x's, there wouldn't even be an x there. Negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3. Rewrite. Get rid of that plus 1. Negative x plus 2. There is your standard form or your slope intercept form, also known as standard. Okay, so now we have to write in point slope form. All right, so if we have a point and we have the slope, all we have to do is put it into the problem. So write in point slope form. Here's how simple this goes. So you have the information and it says write in point slope form. Cool, so here's point slope form. All we have to do is put the stuff inside of this and have it rewritten. That's it. So y minus 2 equals negative 3/4, because that's our slope, times x minus 4. Done. x1, y1. Okay, so y minus negative 3 equals our slope, 7/3, times x minus -3. Done. If you wanted to, you could say, y plus 3 and then x plus 3. You could see variations. If you have little things that you can do like that, go ahead and do them. For right now, this is as far as I'd like to go, and there's going to be another thing that ties it all together, and then we'll reverse the process. You'll be able to go to and from, understand what all the parts are for, but for right now, this is a good chunk that we need to work on.